Which college wide receivers are going to be the next studs in the NFL and will help you in your dynasty football teams? We're going to talk about that in today's video. But as always, if you could please like and subscribe to the channel, we will be here all year long to try and help you win your championships, win money, whatever type of fantasy football you play, we'll be here to help you all year long. So today we're talking about college wide receivers, 5 college wide receivers that I'm going to start paying attention to. And obviously there's going to be a lot more than 5, but I'm just throwing out 5 for you here today. College football, it's Friday, September 1st when I'm recording this. It's the first big weekend of college football is starting this weekend. And, you know, it's never too early to start looking at and thinking about your next year's rookie drafts for Dynasty. You know, the most successful Dynasty players are the ones that kind of pay attention to not just a week before your dynasty rookie drafts happen. They kind of pay attention to during the college season and in the off season. A perfect example to me is the Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor situation. Those who were kind of paying attention during the college season, during the combine, during the pre-draft stuff, those who were scouting it and doing their homework knew that Jonathan Taylor was the better running back over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Those that weren't paying attention saw that Clyde Edwards-Helaire went to the Chiefs and they overdrafted him due to that. So always good to do your homework. That's how you really kill it in your dynasty rookie drafts, you know, especially the late round picks, the second, third, fourth round picks, because those are where people, you know, don't have as much information. Anyone can select Caleb Williams number 1 overall, but not everyone can find a gem in that third round. So we're just going to talk about 5 receivers here. No particular order in these 5 receivers. Just kind of want to introduce kind of my top 5, I would say. It's not official, but I think these would be my top 5, again, as of now, September 1st. And again, these 5 are in no particular order, but this is by far the number 1, and this is any wide receiver list, college wide receiver list should start with Marvin Harrison Jr. Everyone knows this guy is maybe the best, definitely the best receiving prospect we've seen since Jamar Chase. And he might even be a better prospect than Jamar Chase. So that's how good this guy is. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be better than Jamar Chase, but as a prospect, he could be better. Marvin Harrison Jr., honestly, is probably already the dynasty wide receiver 3. That's how good this guy is. He still has you know, he's just starting his college last year in college, most likely, and he's already the dynasty wide receiver 3, in my opinion. The value that this guy's going to bring when those draft picks get sorted out and you find out, hey, I have the number 2 pick, or I have the number 1 pick, I can select Marvin Harrison Jr. People are going to want to pay a boatload for him. To me, it's going to be Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison Jr. are going to be the top 3 dynasty receivers. The dude's a stud. I mean, you see his stats down there, but stats don't tell the whole story, of course, when it comes to college football. But 77 catches, 1,263 yards, 14 touchdowns. You know, that's with playing with another probably first-round receiver in his teammate, another receiver, a guy that's going to get drafted in the first round on his team. The guy has good speed. It's not amazing, but good speed, really good size, 6'4", 210. That's really good size for a receiver. This last draft class, we had a bunch of small receivers coming out. Like everyone seemed to be small except for Quinton Johnston, really. And the NFL is kind of going that way. Lighter guys, smaller guys can succeed more. But this is kind of a throwback to, yeah, this is a 6'4", 210 guy. Like, this guy's a stud. 60% contested catch percentage. The guy has amazing hands, and he's explosive. He had the most explosive plays in FBS in 2022 with 36. That's like 3 a game, essentially, or 3 a game. Yeah, I think I think that counts about 12 games. So about 3 a game, which is insane. And that's plays of 15 or more yards, by the way. The dude's a stud. He was the highest graded receiver for PFF. He is going to be, if Caleb Williams wasn't in this draft, he might be the number 1 pick. Caleb Williams is probably going to be the number 1 pick. Marvin Harrison Jr. could be drafted as high as number 2 overall. So I can't remember the last time we've seen a receiver go in the top 2 or 3. Maybe Calvin Johnson. There might be someone after that, but yeah, the dude is an absolute stud. So I'm going to be not a whole lot to keep an eye on, you know, unless he just absolutely sucks this year. Even if he gets injured, unless it's like a super major injury late in the year, I still don't really see it affecting his draft stock too much. So Marvin Harrison Jr., guys, if you're kind of in the middle of the road team in your dynasty, it might be a good idea to tank this year because there's several studs at the top in terms of receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, and all of that. So next, we're going to get into another guy. Again, this is kind of my top five. It's not official, and it's not in a specific order. Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously my top one, my number one. But next one is Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson is a very intriguing prospect. He's huge. The guy is huge. He's 6'6", 237, which is absolutely huge. Again, last year we got a bunch of small guys coming out. Guys that are barely 180 pounds, 185 pounds. This year's a little different. Johnny Wilson is intriguing, but he's also a little scary as well because there's a lot of guys. JJ Arcega-Whiteside is a really good example of just guys who kind of win with their size and win contested catch in college that just don't translate to the NFL because it's much harder to win with strength because everyone's stronger than in college, and much harder to win by just catching contested catches because defensive backs are just better. You're playing the best in the world. In college, that's not the case. This is how Johnny Wilson wins. However, he does have a little bit of a get-off at the line of scrimmage. He's not just a contested catch guy. He's not going to blow you away with speed, but he can get off the line of scrimmage pretty well. And, there are cases in which guys that do win due to contested – look at Mike Evans. The dude's been he's made an entire career. You can pencil him in for 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns every year, it seems like. And he does that as a contested catch guy. So it can happen. It's just you're a lot more likely to not pan out if you are a contested catch kind of guy, just a big receiver. So Johnny Wilson is that type of receiver. He's 6'6", 237. Again, I'm intrigued by him though. It's hard to not watch his film and just kind of be really, really intrigued by him. So definitely paying attention to him this year. Next up on our list, we have an LSU receiver, Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers is, I would guess, either my number 2 or number 3. Again, don't have an official list yet, but Malik Nabers, he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. He had over 1,000 receiving yards last year in college, and he's super explosive. Half those yards came after the catch, which is what you want to see. You want to see yards after catch guys. Think of Jamar Chase and how much he produces with his yards after catch ability. That really plays in the NFL. If you can if you're really good after the catch, that can play in the NFL. Look at Quinton Johnston. He just got drafted. We don't know how he's going to pan out yet, but he was the third receiver off the board. Second receiver, I think, off the board. Maybe third, because of basically his ability after the catch. So Malik Nabers, 6 foot, 200 pounds. So not the biggest guy, not the smallest guy. He runs in the low to mid 4.4s. Again, almost half his yards came after the catch. He had a higher contested catch rate than Marvin Harrison Jr., so he has really, really good hands. I really like Malik Nabers. It's really hard to watch his tape and be like, yeah, and say this guy's not going to produce in the NFL. This guy's going to be really, really good in the NFL. So keep an eye out for Malik Nabers. Could be my wide receiver 2 in this class. Again, haven't made the official list yet and don't really want to until I start seeing some college films, some college games. So that is our third guy. Going into our fourth guy, another Ohio State guy. It's amazing they have the top two receivers potentially in the draft are from Ohio State. Emeka Egbuka, another stud. Every year, man, Ohio State's kind of becoming a wide receiver factory. I mean, they already are a wide receiver factory. Look at all the guys they just have in the NFL. Good size, 6 foot, 205 pounds. So, really good size. Again, kind of the opposite of what we got last year with all these small guys. We have a bunch of more traditional sized wide receivers this year. Of course, Emeka would be the number 1 receiver on basically any other team in the NFL. In college football, he just happens to have Marvin Harrison Jr. on his own team. Really good. He was one of the I think he was the top 12 for PFF grades for receivers last year. He has a pretty good contested catch percentage of almost 53%. And the dude in short area quickness, it's just his flexibility is absolutely amazing. And what's interesting about him is he the separation that he gets on his routes is amazing. His yards after the catch is really good. And what's interesting about him is I can see this guy killing it in the slot, absolutely destroying in the slot. And why he could destroy in the slot, because of his flexibility and short area quickness. In the slot, you kind of usually, when you run routes, you kind of have a two-direction options, right? You have a lot of two-direction options. You can go this way or this way. When you're on the outside, you really only have one direction. You can't, obviously you can go back towards the sideline, but it's usually just one direction you're going or turning, whereas in the slot, those guys can kill, and that's how they get all the separation. Emeka Egbuka, man, he doesn't play in the slot at Ohio State. They just, he's too good to put him exclusively in the slot, but man, he could absolutely destroy if he plays like, if he gets to the NFL and plays 50% of his snaps from the slot, the dude's going to absolutely destroy. So you see his stats there, really good numbers, 74 catches, 1,150 yards, 10 touchdowns. So I'm looking forward to seeing that wide receiver duo for Ohio State. And our last guy that we have on this list is actually another team that I think has a lot of good receivers prospects on their team. It is Xavier Worthy from Texas. Now, Worthy, kind of an interesting, he's kind of had an interesting college career up until this point. His freshman year, he was absolutely amazing. By the way, he's 6'1", 164 pounds. So he's a little bit more of what we got this last year with a lot of these small guys. He's tall. He's just really, really skinny. So maybe he could probably put on more weight. Maybe get to that 185 size. But Xavier Worthy, as a freshman, was absolutely a monster. I think he set Texas's freshman receiving record for most yards in a season. I think he had like a bunch of records, most yards in a game. Most receiving touchdowns, most touchdowns in a game, most receptions in a game, most receptions in a season. The guy was just setting records as a rookie. As a freshman, sorry. And that's what you want to see for these guys. You want to see them dominate at a young age. If you're dominating when you're 18, 19 years old, you're dominating against guys that are 2, 3, 4 years older than you. That's what you want to see. Those are the guys that you can say, like, yeah, this guy's going to be a stud. And then in 2022, so that was 2021, he did all that. 2022, he didn't look the same. He just wasn't as good. His catch percentage dropped. His forced missed tackle rate went down, but then it came out that he was playing, over half the year with a broken hand, which, why he dropped more passes and maybe caught less passes. So he's kind of an interesting one. Like, I could see him really rising up the boards if he gets back to his freshman year production. But also I can see him really falling if he kind of looks more like he did in 2022. I expect him to be more like his freshman year. I think that broken hand really did mess with him a little bit. And, I think he can kind of put it all together. Texas has a couple guys that I'm really interested in. Another one is a guy that just transferred to Texas from Georgia. I don't know if it's Adonai or Adonai Mitchell. I forget how to say his first name, but Adonai Mitchell, who missed a lot of time last year, was on Georgia. He's on Texas too. He's really intriguing to me as well. So Texas has a couple of really good receivers, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see if Xavier Worthy can kind of get back to his freshman year, because the dude was a monster as a freshman. So, yeah, guys, there you have it. Again, short video. Just kind of wanted to start putting names out there for you Dynasty players who are kind of addicts like me, who pay attention to this all year long. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be producing these videos where, every few weeks that pass in the college season, we're going to kind of go over the tape, go over the film, and adjust our rankings accordingly, and kind of give you guys not just the snapshot a week before your Dynasty rookie drafts. Oh, who should I draft? And what people always overhype players due to the draft. It always happens. I saw in my own rookie draft, Quentin Johnston went over JSN only because Quentin Johnston went to the Chargers. And I like Quentin Johnston. I'm a Chargers fan. I think Quentin Johnston could be a good player. He is not JSN. He is not JSN. And I scooped up JSN knowing that JSN is just by far the superior talent. but people overreact to the draft. So really important for you Dynasty players. We're going to be here for you. We're going to be putting out scouting all year long, just kind of updating, every few weeks or so, because you don't want to react week to week, but every few weeks we're going to kind of go through and just kind of refresh our list, look at the top 10, 15 receivers, tight ends, running backs, all of them. So as always, if you could like this video and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And good luck with your fantasy drafts this weekend, and I'll catch you guys all